Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, this will be a video a little bit more different from the content I usually make. I'm about to, well, it's something else that I haven't touched on ever on my channel, and maybe touch on it again. Well, it's something else of like what I like, and that is, well, this actually for say, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. Well, I'm kind of a fan of Spider-Man. Not a huge fan as like I was maybe say like a year or two ago, but the reason I'm making this video is because I recently went to go see the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy in theaters because Sony did re-release are going to re-release every single Spider-Man film in theaters. They have already shown the original trilogy and that's done. So I went to go watch them because it had been a while since I had watched those movies, and also because I wanted to experience that for the very first time because I never got to see those movies in theaters back when they came out. Obviously, because I wasn't born yet. So we're gonna talk about all three movies and how I experienced, like my experience with them in theaters, and to see if I would probably go back and rewatch these maybe again, but not in theaters anymore because obviously that whole thing is done. So this is a video that maybe I wanted to do, but I didn't know if you guys would enjoy it. But I ultimately decided to do it. So let's get on with the first movie. So the first movie, obviously, I'm actually one of those people who say that it's actually the best superhero origin movie of all time. I know people would say like maybe Batman Begins is the best one, but I feel like that movie didn't really have like a lasting impact or has a legacy that big compared to the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. And obviously, but that movie is obviously the origin of Spider-Man, and obviously he fights the Green Goblin, and obviously he has his relationship with MJ, and all that goes with the entire trilogy. And my experience with it in theaters was that obviously I was excited. I wanted to see. I wanted to go like that early, but I thought I was gonna make there in time because I was gonna also bring along my brother and my sister, but my brother was taking so long because he had recently just gotten out of his class, and he was kind of running a little bit late, and I thought I was gonna miss the showing, like the beginning of it, but at least we got there in time, and obviously that experience was amazing. Whenever like the movie opened up with the credits, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, because I really love the music from the original trilogy, and also got my original Spider-Man figure. I know this isn't the superposable Spidey from like back then. Hey, this could suffice for the meantime, but obviously obviously I really love the movie. It's still one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I know people say Spider-Man 2 is the best one, but that's them. I did when I rewatched. Well, I'll get to that when we get to the second movie. But the first movie just it's just so emotional because for me because obviously I watched that movie so many times with obviously with the movie with the first Cars movie or like the Fast and Furious movies. Those were nostalgia stuff. But I know sometimes when you try to revisit something from back in your childhood, it doesn't really feel the same. But with this movie, it still feels the same. Like with the movie Cars, I still love that movie to this day, and I love the first Spider-Man. It's just something. And then the reaction, like I would say throughout the movie, I know the theater I went to, they didn't really have that much of a big like round of applause throughout the movie. Maybe like once the movie ended, like once the final swing did, big huge round of applause from my theater. And I wish I can go back like 2 weeks ago and go re-experience all of that because well, obviously I just really love the experience, and it kind of regrets. I actually regretted myself not bringing my Spider-Man action figure, this one right here, for the first one. because well, obviously at the time I really don't bring along like rare stuff like this. I know this isn't as rare like these two or maybe the one right here, which I'll show once we get talking to the second one. But I really love those. The first one, I really love Toby Maguire. I know people say that Toby Maguire is kind of not really the best Spider-Man, but I feel like he really captures the character so well, and that's why I really fell in love with them. Like many people who are fans of the original trilogy, they said like, "Oh my gosh, like those movies are so special," and Toby Maguire is definitely one of the best parts of it. Obviously, you can't forget about Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. He is another great part of the film, and uh, definitely whenever they battled, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. And then obviously the final battle was like, gosh, yes, yes. And then when the final swing came, whew, oh my gosh, I was like literally crying, and I was kind of almost in tears because when whenever I see that scene, I always like always I don't know. It's just more like that's like my favorite parts of the original trilogy, even though the third one doesn't have it. But I just really loved my experience in theaters with this movie. What would be the rating I would give the first one? I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's still one of the best superhero origin movies of all time. I know people would say that doesn't really hold up that well because of the CGI and also kind of the cheeky humor or the music. I don't really mind the music of the first one, maybe because I grew up with it. I grew up with a little bit of the soundtrack, like the first Cars movie, or many other movies like I would say Fast and Furious, where I really love the soundtrack, but people don't really agree with that because they just say it just makes the movie outdated. Like, okay, that's your opinion, but I just really love the first one so much, and I really love the soundtrack. So yeah, that was a great experience for the first one. Now let's get on with the second movie, which people say this is the best Spider-Man movie and the best superhero of all time. Which before going to see it in theaters, I initially didn't even want to go see the second one in theaters because I didn't really like Spider-Man 2. I know there's some people right now that probably are in the comments, or maybe someone that maybe might send this section of the video to someone saying like, "Oh, this guy doesn't like Spider-Man 2." And like, well, it's because as a kid, it didn't really do too much for me. Like the first one, it didn't really keep the same say the same energy as the first one. It kind of took itself more seriously, which I do really like. But it's just more like I wish it kept some of that cheeky humor that was in the first one. But you gotta do something that could be better than the original, which Sam Raimi did do that. So obviously I wasn't even gonna watch it, but then ultimately when I saw when I was rewatching like those main title sequences for all three of them before I went to go see them in theaters, when I got to the second one, I was like, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I'll watch the second one. And to my surprise, it actually changed my perspective of Spider-Man 2. I know. Usually when you go to like go watch a movie, you probably get like a way different experience than you probably watch it by yourself at home. But this really changed my perspective over Spider-Man 2. Like I don't know, it's more like the movie definitely got better. I think maybe because of my age, since I'm already almost an adult. I had, and obviously trying to deal with bills and then payments, and then dealing with foreclosure. That's a little bit scary to say the least. Trying to lose your house, you definitely have to experience that in your adult life. Obviously, Peter has to experience that. Obviously, with Uncle Ben gone and Southworth, yeah. And obviously, Doctor Octopus or Doc Ock, played by Alpha. No, I can't remember. I don't know how did I forget to pronounce his first name? Alpha Molina. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Yeah. But I really love this performance as Doc Ock. It's definitely some of the best of the entire trilogy, in my opinion. Even though I do like Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin a little bit more, I think that he definitely stacks up with the Green Goblin as one of the best villains of the entire trilogy. And I really love where they took this character, even though you can kind of clearly see a formula with the original trilogy if you go back and rewatch it. Sam Raimi kind of likes to take villains from the original source material, try to change them up, try to connect them to the superhero, like Doc Ock, like Doctor Octopus in the comics. He he wasn't a mentor to Peter Parker back then, or was like an inspiration for Peter. In the comics, it was a little bit more different, but I don't want to deal with that much. But I know because this video, I'm not trying to really make it that long, but I am probably gonna make it that long if I talk too much. But definitely, whenever some of those fight scenes with Doc Ock and Spider Man, whew, I really love seeing it on the big screen. And obviously, the reaction was like, whew, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. This is definitely going to replace Spider-Man 1 as my favorite out of the original trilogy. And I really love Spider-Man 2. But obviously, when you're like a kid, you always assume that these movies are about Spider-Man. That they don't really care about that stuff. And I think as a kid, I felt like the Spider-Man scenes were the best, and not some of the whole drama stuff. That eventually changed once I got more older and started rewatching these movies more and more. It definitely changed my perspective of these movies and really made me enjoy them more. And obviously, I love the beginning of the movie of Mr. Aziz. Oh my god, this thing was so freaking hilarious rewatching it in the actual theater. Obviously, the final swing, great, great as always. So, what would I rate this movie? I would rate it a little bit more higher than the first one, so I'd say like a 9.8 out of 10. I know the movie's not perfect because there's some aspects of it, like the CGI is, from what I've seen from rewatching it, yeah, you can clearly see that some scenes did not hold up, and I feel like some of the storylines, like like whenever Peter loses powers, he gets a web block, but in the comics, obviously he's supposed to have web shooters and organic webs. That was just an idea from the scrap Spider-Man movie from the 1990s, but I wish that I feel like I don't know. It's just something about it. Like it doesn't really make that much sense. Like how do you get web block? I know it's just through the depression and so forth, but like I think the web shooters plot. I think web shooters would have been a little bit more better, but I know why Sam Raimi didn't want web shooters. It was because obviously why would a teenager be able to create technology like that, and not even the big companies are be able to do that, which I can kind of see why. But the movie is still great. It's still one of the best superhero movies of all time. I don't have my Spider-Man 2 action figure. I have, well, this isn't the one from the main line, but this is just reusing the Spider-Man 1 body and just putting the Spider-Man 2 details. The reason I bought this one is because I didn't have a action figure from Spider-Man 2, so I wanted to buy this one. And it was on the more cheaper side, but I can see why it was more cheaper. Yeah, the articulation on this figure isn't the best anymore. But hey, this is a figure from 2004, and he's telling you to stop. So yeah, Spider-Man 2, best superhero, one of the best superhero movies of all time. Now let's get on to Spider-Man 3. The most controversial Spider-Man film, or one of the most controversial ones, because there are people who like it, like me. I love Spider-Man 3. But there are people out there who say Spider-Man 3 is the worst, and is definitely one of the worst superhero movies of all time. And to those people, more power to them, but for me, I have definitely seen way worse than Spider-Man 3. This movie still works for me. I really love the fighting scenes. I really love Sandman. He was definitely the best part of the film. And I wish they would have freaking expanded Sandman's story even more. and his relationship with his daughter. Because in the movie, you don't really get to see that. You only get to see that in the beginning. Afterwards, it felt more like they just kind of set it along for like other stuff, like obviously the Green Goblin, the New Goblin plot, which I don't know why you call a character the New Goblin, but that's something they should have just called it the Hobgoblin for Harry. But obviously, I didn't mention Harry. Harry is kind of oh, pretty okay in these movies. Or he isn't the best out of like say Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst. But their whole situation nowadays with obviously trying to thinking that you should have gotten paid more than Tobey Maguire, which I kind of disagree with that because I think Tobey Maguire should have definitely got paid more. Come on, he is the star of the trilogy, not you. No. I know you're one of the central plots of the movie, but you're not like the main person. That's Tobey Maguire right there. But obviously, with the third movie, it kind of felt like, yeah, there were definitely some missteps with this movie. But that was because of the whole studio stuff, and obviously Sam Raimi never wanted Venom in the movie, which is understandable because I really see that Sam Raimi really wanted to focus more on Sandman and maybe the Green Goblin storyline. He was going to add the Vulture instead, but then Avi Arad and Sony told him no. And I mean, Venom is whatever in this movie. I don't really mind it, and I do really like his design. I know it's different from the comics, but hey, I really adore it. It's definitely pretty cool. Even though none of the action figures from that time never got the look of it right. Maybe because obviously those were from early concepts. But I really love Venom and Venom's design in this movie. It definitely is something that you don't really get to see in many other source materials. But hey, obviously Tobey Maguire is still good in this movie, even though the whole emo Peter and bully Maguire stuff just made me kind of ruin the experience for Spider-Man 3 when I went to go watch them. When I went to go watch Spider-Man 3, but definitely this was the movie that gave me so much chills. Like, whenever the scene when Peter has to go save, no, when Spider-Man has to go save Gwen Stacy from dying, once Spider-Man appeared with that music, it sent me chills. I was like, oh my gosh. And I actually do have recordings of that, of me actually recording it whenever it happened. Because I did record it a little bit during Spider-Man 3. I know you're not supposed to do that, but hey, come on. It's Spider-Man. I wanted to live the experience and have some memories of it. But obviously, you know, Spider-Man 3 could be a hit or miss film for most people, but I think it's a pretty good film. I think it's definitely not really on par as the first two ones, but I would say that this is definitely a good superhero movie. Not the worst, but certainly not the best. And obviously, I really love whenever they introduced the symbiote, the black suited Spider-Man. Obviously, we got an action figure right there. Right there. Yeah, look. Right there. And obviously, we got your typical red suit. These were some of the first action figures from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man that I actually owned. Well, not for that long. I bought these off of eBay a couple years ago. I was going to do reviews on these, but then I ultimately decided not to because I know my videos are more center more on Disney cars and maybe some NASCAR pretty soon. But yeah, but obviously when the third movie ended, big round of applause. There wasn't really that much of a round of applause when Peter ended up going back to his red suit, but obviously when the whole freaking emo Peter dancing scene came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I was freaking laughing in there. I know, I've seen that movie so many times, but hey, you still get a chuckle, and I know I was kind of pissed. I was a little bit mad whenever the whole MJ Harry kiss, it was a reaction that I had not gotten beforehand when I had watched this movie maybe a couple months ago. But that's just I don't know what happened there, but that definitely was the worst scene in the movie. I don't really like that scene a lot. is the worst. But you know, for this movie, I really enjoyed the experience with all three movies. I really loved them, and maybe I'll probably go watch the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I don't think I'm going to. And I'm certainly not going to go rewatch Homecoming or Far From Home. I don't really like those movies. No Way Home maybe just because for Tobey Maguire, you know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But for Spider-Man 3, I'll give it a rating of I feel like I'll give it a 6.9 out of 10. It's certainly not a good movie, but it isn't the worst one I've ever seen. It's definitely kind of good, but sometimes not good. It's more like in the middle. But, you know, obviously it was a bit sad whenever obviously they rebooted Spider-Man. I'm still waiting on Spider-Man 4. I know there's rumors that maybe Sam Raimi might be directing Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4, which I know that might not be true, but hey, at least is a shot, but yeah, but we'll see what happens. But obviously, this original trilogy was my childhood, and tell me in the comments, tell me in the comments, have you ever watched these movies? How do you feel about these movies? Do you think they're still some of the best superhero movies of all time, or do you think that these movies haven't aged that well ever since they first came out? Or did you actually go see these movies in theaters? Did you know about that? If you didn't, it's kind of a little bit too late for you. These movies are gone from theaters. But hey, anyways, thank you guys all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.